Alright, kita ada 35 participant.
Okay.
Okay, Puan Anita, kita give another 1 minute. Then we start the session.
All right, thank you.
Dear colleagues and friends, thank you for coming. We give another 1 minute, and then after that we continue with our session. All right, you start.
Sorry.
All right, dear colleagues and friends, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2022 Mental Health in Workplace Health Talk. This session is number 1 sharing session for 2022. All right, thank you all for joining us. I would especially like to thanks to Mental Illness Awareness and Support Association Miasa team, and also to Puan Anita, founder and president of Miasa, for sharing session today. HSC Department Petrofac, we organize this health talk to create better understanding and also opportunity to respond to the massive unmet need for the mental health support and services. We aware that COVID-19 pandemic has made an already challenging situation, worsening our mental health during the MCO and also during quarantine, especially to offshore crew. We have participants from Petrofac KL office, Menara Prestige. We also have participation from KSB, Chendor, and do we have any West Saru team? Chendor team, can you hear me, Chendor team? KSB?
You.
All right, thank you. All right, so without further ado, I would like to call upon Puan Aisyah from Miasa to facilitate this session. Hand over to Miasa team.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aisyah. I'm one of the staff member of Miasa. So thank you so much for inviting Puan Anita. I hope that this session will give a lot of benefits to every and each of you in the talk today. So I'll pass the floor to Puan Anita.
All right, thank you very much, Aisyah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Encik Hazwa, and welcome to the entire team here of management staff, office staff, and everyone from Petrofac. Thank you so much for having us this morning. Today's discussion is a very important one, as mentioned by Encik Hazwa. Not only the pandemic, but obviously even prior to the pandemic, a lot of people were actually struggling with mental health issues, but it wasn't something that was addressed openly, especially in the workplaces. So very, very happy to see how much we have progressed, and obviously, the pandemic, fortunately, has highlighted these gaps within, the system and the community as a whole. So I will go ahead and share my screen. So let me know if you guys can see it ataupun Encik Hazwa, kalau boleh nampak screen saya. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So just for the information of everyone, when I begin, my presentation, I will only be able to see my slides. So I'm not able to see anyone. So I would appreciate participations. I can't see emojis or thumbs up. It will be really nice to hear your feedbacks. And as we go along, hopefully it will be more of an open discussion as well. So for this topic this morning, we will be discussing about mental health in the workplace, building resilience. I will begin with, giving you guys a little bit of context of the situation in Malaysia, and then, focusing on mental health in the workplace, and then on building resilience. So hopefully I'll be able to finish it in about 45 minutes, and then we will open up for Q&A. Okay, hope that's okay. All right, so really quickly about Miasa. I'm sure many of you are probably, excuse me, not familiar with Miasa. So we are the Mental Illness Awareness and Support Association, and for any organization, understanding the why is very crucial, so that we feel more passionate about, we're able to do our work more passionately in that sense. And so for Miasa, what we do, and what our end goal or end game at the end of the day is, so that people are able to manage their mental health struggles. They're able to thrive even if they are having a clinical diagnosis of a mental health condition or whatever challenges they are going through in life. So everyone has a right to mental health, and everyone deserves the chance to thrive. So at Miasa, our mission is to help people and save lives dengan izin Allah. And we can all advocate more effectively together by joining the community, hashtag in this together. And we encourage, those of you that are interested in helping, to contribute to this cause, you can, even in, your own individual capacity. But of course, collectively, by, becoming a volunteer or joining any kind of association, we'll be able to create a lot of impact. So we want to go ahead and start now in here. So I just wanted to show this video really quickly. This is actually a campaign that we ran in 2019, actually, with SIMDABI and also the Malaysian Mental Health Association. It's very impactful. And in any conversation really in relation to mental health, typically we begin with stigma, because stigma is what hinders a person from getting the help that they very much need and require. And especially, in conversations in relation to mental health or mental health disorders, stigma is very widespread. The negative perception of society is what makes a person feel very ashamed and very afraid to reach for that help. So lean back and enjoy the video. Let me know if you can hear it, yeah.
Berkena dengan dia. As if we could tell what is wrong about a person from what is right just on sight. As if wrong was just a simple matter of right or left. That if you're right, then you won't be left to wander on your own if it is normal to feel left out and be all alone. That you have to deserve fitting right in. So you keep everything in. Because what matters is what's inside of you. The more you keep, the better you think you get. Because people only understand different when it is an accent or a color or a sin. So even when your body is breaking from within, you try to behave the same as everyone else, despite feeling that you're lying through your teeth. Spirits seeping through stitches that grafted their words onto your skin. Man up! Orang lain lagi susah lah. I turned out okay. Get over it. Sikit-sikit pun salah. Don't mind them. They didn't mean it. You don't deserve to live. Wonder what it would be like if they actually meant it. It already felt like they did. Maybe that was why some of us tried giving up. Living was already hard enough because it works a little differently for us than it does everyone else. So we tried to find ways to set our minds to rest, only to discover that dying was harder. Our souls just wouldn't let go. And our minds couldn't tell why. You start wondering what is wrong with your body. Sometimes it feels like the wrong body, where your heart is an old car doing 180 and every interaction is a traffic collision because every pulse is like an accident about to happen but never really does, feeling like it already did, until crashing is the only way of resting that you can think of. You wonder if your body could last the distance, if it's gonna break, because your spirits feel like it already did. Maybe that's why some of us drown ourselves in them, because that's the only way to raise them when you're sinking. Because addiction is the only way you hold on to something. The same way how memories hold on to you. And the regrets, the meds, the silences, the comments on your timeline, their voices. Berkena dengan dia. Hati dia gelap. She looks depressed. He likes to be by himself. Dia kena buat. Dia kena bersyukur. Dia kena ingat Tuhan. Like how they do. using God's name in vain to say He created everyone the same, not realizing there is a difference between equality and reality and how that affects your sanity while still having the audacity to treat you differently. This is a matter of the mind. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. Since they don't mind, we don't matter. It's about time we all do. We're all great minds in the making. Refine our senses, assign our minds to read the signs and learn the symptoms instead of being quick to define. Realize that some minds are more like minds that can be tripped by our lines, turning bodies into battlefields of a war that is lost in the silences. When a heart breaks in a room and there is no one else around, does it make a sound? Stigma is the lock we put outside that room, keeping them in. It is a label that we put on that door saying, leave them, because we were too afraid to listen, to look at ourselves, only to ask too late, what did he mean? When did she say? Why didn't we see? What did we do? Kena dengan dia. Instead of just asking, apa khabar?
Okay, so that was our Apa Khabar campaign. So mungkin Encik Hazwa, what did you think? What are some maybe messages that you got watching that video?
For me, takeaway from the video, basically we need to always check our friend lah, dia punya condition, and macam video tadi, as a friend kita kena ambil tahulah kawan kita. That's my takeaway from the video.
Okay, alright, thank you very much, Encik Hazwa. Mungkin yang lain ada apa-apa views or opinions? Maybe I can call some names. Nor Natasha, ada ke? Puan Kecik, Nor Natasha, are you there? What do you think? What are some messages that you got, or message that you got via this video, if you want to share? Ada ke? Nor Natasha, Nor Shuhada ke? Or anyone? Does anyone want to volunteer? Maybe, what are the things that you got, by watching this video? Because this video obviously has a lot of messages. Maybe from your point of view. What do you guys think?
Okay, hi.
Hello.
Okay, apa yang saya dapat daripada video tu is we cannot understand people just from outside. Maksudnya kita tak boleh judge orang tu daripada luar sahaja. Tapi tanpa kita faham apa yang dia rasa, dan kita macam tak boleh lah nak cakap, oh orang lain lagi susah, jangan ingat kau je yang susah. Tapi sebenarnya kita tak lalui apa yang dia rasa pun.
Betul, that's actually a very good point. Siapa nama ya?
Syuhada.
Syuhada, okay. Thank you very much, Syuhada. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. Ya, kita tak tahu sebenarnya cabaran individu dengan hanya melihat luaran ataupun cara mereka berinteraksi dengan kita, because some people are very good at hiding their struggles or their pain, kan? But in actual fact and reality, especially disebabkan oleh tercetus ni pandemik COVID-19 ni, kita semua tahu everyone is struggling with something, right? We're not gonna find someone that is not struggling today, ataupun tak ada orang yang tak stress hari ini, terutamanya di tempat kerja. Jadi stigma is still very much in society, especially when we talk about mental health. Jadi these are some of the conversations that we hear ataupun comments from people a lot, kan guys, or everyone. Man up. Dia kena ingat Tuhan, orang lain lagi susah, don't mind them, just get over it. Seriously, what's wrong with her? Takut aku nak kawan dengan orang mental. Just from this 6 comments right here, there's actually a lot of things that we can pick up, kan? Maknanya men's mental health is also highly stigmatized. Sebab apa? Dalam culture kita, it doesn't matter the Malay, the Chinese, the Indian, kan? It's always about boys don't cry, men's have to have it all together. You can't show your vulnerability, or you can't be vulnerable because you're a man, that kind of thing. So it's a sign of weakness if you do. Lepas tu, obviously, toxic positivity, although not done deliberately, but that is the danger when we lack the knowledge kan. Jadi kita akan cakap benda-benda macam think positive, engkau ni kurang iman lah, dulu banyak dosa lah. When it comes to mental health ataupun mental health disorders, it's usually related to lemah iman ataupun tak baca Quran, kurang sembahyang. It's always related to spirituality and religion. But we don't do it with other conditions, only a mental health condition. Jadi this is one of the stigmas that is so widespread, and hopefully through the normalization of such discussions that we can change this. So one of the things that we want to talk about is being Miasa, we are a peer support group, and peer support is evidence. And we've seen in many companies, many universities, higher learning institutions today, via this pandemic. Now, obviously, we're in this endemic. Tapi when the pandemic happened, a lot of organizations started building up peer support groups, in their own settings.
Juanita, you breaking up, Juanita.
Can you hear me? That it's such a peer support group is evidence-based. And we see a lot of people in the workplaces building peer support groups, and this is such a big progress. Jadi, what does the evidence tell us about peer support groups, networks, and programs? Kita melihat if we are in a group setting in the context of mental health, we will find hope. Kan, that camaraderie makes us feel stronger. Kita tumpang kekuatan semangat rakan-rakan yang lain. Sebagai contoh, we feel empowered in our recovery journey, and we know and understand that indeed there is a way out, and we're not the only ones going through this challenge. So just a little bit of introduction of Miasa, so that you know what Miasa provides and also what our role is, so that if you are indeed struggling, or your family members or friends, you can channel them to us. So we provide awareness, we do advocacy work, and also provide support, relief and livelihood support both. Encik Hazwa, am I still breaking up or am I okay?
Okay, loud and clear.
Okay, all right, thank you. And these are some of our support services. So we are in the community. So what we provide are services such as peer support, family support, circle time, which is a group support, orang kata sessions, WhatsApp support group. We do consultations. We can also do home visits for whatever reason it might be. People can't come to us. And we also have our crisis helpline, which is 24/7, 1-800-820066. We provide other support services for the individual, for example, art therapy, drama and speech. We also provide expressive dance therapy, spiritual therapy, talk therapy, counseling. So banyak sebenarnya services that we, as much as possible try to improve and also expand, so that there is always something for everyone on the menu. So we do it online. And so just to give you a little bit of insight of how overstretched NGOs in the community are, and of course this reflects clinical services as well, where 21,000 people have reached out for the help from January until May this year via various platforms, be calls, WhatsApp, social media, face-to-face and also virtual sessions. Our crisis helpline number 1-800-820066. Okay, so just a little bit about the context of mental health in Malaysia. We're looking at about 500,000 Malaysians feeling depressed since COVID-19. So imagine this was before the pandemic. Obviously today more people are struggling. Based on the latest research publication by WHO, we're looking at the first year of the pandemic alone. Across the globe, we are looking at an increase of people falling into anxiety and depression by 25% on average. And this is a huge number. So we're looking about 1 in 8 people going through a mental health condition. And in countries where there are conflicts currently, we're looking at 1 in 5. So that's a huge number as we speak. And it's no longer a silent pandemic. Obviously, now with the data, with a lot of people struggling, we now know that a lot of people are indeed battling mental health conditions. what more when we talk about, the discussion surrounding suicide. And suicide is very much a conversation that we need to talk about openly, although it's such a taboo in a lot of cultures, countries, etc. But when people go through, as an example, depression, one of the symptoms could possibly be battling suicidal thoughts and ideation. So it is a symptom of a condition. So if we treat depression, we treat these symptoms, the suicidal thoughts and ideation can go away. So this is very important for us to understand that it's a symptom, it's intrusive, but it can be treated, right? It's not because the person is contohnya lemah iman, tak solat, tak baca Quran dan sebagainya, but it's because it is a symptom of a condition. So dekat Malaysia, we're looking at 29.2% of Malaysians ages 16 years old and above going through a mental health struggle. Kalau kita melihat kepada golongan orang-orang tua, the geriatric group, 60 years old and above, 24%, and we are in an aging population, so more people will fall into getting these conditions, especially dementia and Alzheimer's, etc. And it's also very worrying because we're looking at 424,000 children having mental health problems in Malaysia based on the National Health and Morbidity Survey 2019. Jadi bayangkan post-pandemic, with the data that I just mentioned, an increase of 25% on average across the globe, we are looking at a higher number, everyone. So this is very, very worrying. We need to act, we need to move more aggressively, we need to expand, develop, and strengthen community-based support and comprehensive mental health services. We need to leverage on primary care network, on prevention, preventative measures, on mental health promotion, so that we can build resilience of the community, so that we can, either prevent, enhance, so that, we know how to take care of our mental health. So we're looking at 40% when we're talking about causes of mental health issues in Malaysia. Rural areas obviously higher because they have more consistent stressors. There are also some data showing that people in the urban areas have more mental struggles, but obviously it's more underreporting from the rural areas, lack of information, access to services dan sebagainya, and of course blaming it all to spirituality ataupun demon possession, etc. So causes of mental health issues in Malaysia, I think we all know this. A lot of people are going through financial difficulties, struggles, unemployment, loss of jobs, reduction of income, high debts, sebab yalah masa pandemic berlaku, especially the first MCO, only essential services were allowed to operate, everyone else, we all weren't able to operate as usual, and we didn't know how to leverage on social media during the time, and also working from home. So that was a learning curve that we all had to go through, and what most students obviously kan tak pernah belajar secara virtual, but they had to, and so lecturers were struggling, teachers were struggling, and students were struggling, and of course, parents being, either employees, employers, working from home, having to wear, many hats. So, all these exacerbated, during this pandemic, and now we're really feeling it, kan? And so when we talk about the cost, the economic cost to the Malaysian economy, we're looking about 4.46 billion. And again, this was prior to the pandemic, and obviously now, the numbers are bigger. Okay? So what are we looking at, everyone? Top mental health issues in the Malaysian population. In the workplace, obviously, we're looking at anxiety disorders and also depression and stress. So acute stress disorder, anxiety, depression, adjustment disorders, and also burnout. A lot of people in the workplaces were going through burnouts, going through acute stress disorder, very, very stressed, extreme isolation that everyone was feeling. And again, handling or carrying out a lot of, different hats, and then unclear ataupun unhealthy boundaries happen. A lot of feelings of anxiousness, panicking, worrying, and it overwhelmed understanding. So with such contributing factors, obviously, all these emotions that we all feel are totally valid, but what are we going to do about it? How do we manage and how do we overcome? These are the conversation that needs to happen. So obviously when we talk about mental health, the vision of Miasa and all of us that are working within the space, we're looking at fighting stigma and discrimination, providing supported accommodation and housing rights for people with mental health disorders and disabilities, employment rights, the right to work, because usually people with mental health disorders, they don't disclose their condition in the workplace because there's a lot of stigma, and then stigma leads to discrimination, especially if employers or work colleagues lack the knowledge. Then the job environment, persekitaran tempat kerja, becomes very unhealthy and not conducive to their recovery process. They're not able to recover effectively, not like a person with a physical condition, as an example. Healthcare right is everyone's right. Closing down mental institutions, and also safe media reporting guidelines on suicide, which I won't focus on since we're talking about mental health. So in the workplace. So why is mental health in the workplace important? Obviously, it's important because we are at work most of our time, and for a lot of people, career is what defines you when it shouldn't. So hence why we need to have this conversation more openly. And a lot of times, like I mentioned, stigma and discrimination happens a lot in the workplace, and so we need to normalize this conversation. We need to open up this conversation so that people feel supported in the workplace. We can address it, and people can thrive in the workplaces, and given opportunities, given chances, like how we willingly give it to any other person, right? So employers must strive in raising awareness and ending the stigma and improving that culture and climate in the workplace. And all in all, we can improve the access to care for people in the workplace as well. So increases commitment when we know that our employees are supportive not only of our physical well-being but of our mental well-being as well. It improves satisfaction and mood. We feel happier, hence we're able to be more productive. We find a sense of belonging. Turnover also reduces. It also decreases psychological psychological strain. And so when we are talking about this or being in this endemic stage, what is important is have open discussions among work colleagues, among bosses with employees. Remember that you need to have a good work-life integration. We're not robots, we're all human beings at the end of the day. And prioritize not only your physical health but your mental health. And I will share some pointers on this, on how we can manage this work-life integration better, on how we can take care of our mental health better. And it's all within our grasp. It's just that we're not investing in these components, and so a positive outcome for our overall ataupun total well-being isn't achieved in that sense. And then creating a calming morning routine to clear your mind and ease stress, and reach out to family and friends. Yeah. Okay, so I want to share with you this video on the stress bucket, just so that we have a visual on how we can manage this better.
Stress is usually seen as something we need to avoid. This is not true. We need stress, and we need our body's stress hormone cortisol to rise and fall throughout the day. Stress helps us wake up in the morning, helps us focus, learn, and remember new things. It's when people experience too much stress and start having difficulties coping that stress becomes a problem. High levels of stress can disrupt the natural changes in the body's stress response system and start to affect our physical and mental health. Over time, accumulated stress can result in false FFF response activations. When trying to measure our stress tolerance, the bucket analogy can be helpful. Our stress tolerance, or the size of our bucket, is a product of our genes, personality, and life experiences, and its size varies from person to person. The water in this analogy is the combination of all the stress in your life. We use the coping strategies we have available to keep our bucket from overflowing. They are like taps that allow water to drain from the bucket. Stress can include training, work, school, relationships, finances, moving, changing jobs, or the loss of a loved one. Both positive and negative experiences will affect the water level. A big bucket can hold more water or stress before it overflows. With a smaller bucket, less water is required for the water or stress level to become critical. While you can't change the size of your bucket, you can make life adjustments to reduce water coming in. You can also learn new coping strategies and stress management techniques to allow water to drain out. Mind tools, exercise, quality sleep, relaxation, and sharing your feelings with friends are some examples of effective water taps. Staying up late, sleeping in, drugs, inactivity, procrastination, suppressing or ignoring problems are examples of unhelpful coping strategies or false taps. They might give temporary relief, but actually result in water flowing back into your bucket. This video was created by Brave.
Okay, all right. So that's one of the ways to look at it. So if you look at a bucket, or even if you look at a bottle, for example, right? So the holes that you have within, your bottle, these are all effective coping mechanisms that we can all learn, and also self-care and taking care of yourself. As an example, sleeping well, exercising, doing voluntary work, spending quality time with friends and family. All these things will help for you to reduce this water in the bucket or in the bottle. And also, as much as possible, we can't pour from an empty bottle, from an empty cup. And as much as possible, we also want to give from the spillover if we can. So it's very important to fill that up. And what we say is to fill up to credit our mental health account. So mungkin Encik Hazwa, what do you think? What do you do to manage your stress? Because obviously we are all stressed out, especially in the workplace, kan? So you yourself personally, what do you do? Like, how do you manage your stress? Encik Hazwa ada ke? Okay, I can't see anyone. Encik Hazwa, are you there?
Maybe we can try to find someone else.
Okay. Fatin Atika, ada ke? Fatin Atika, what do you do? What do you do to manage your stress? Tak ada, semua diam je.
Amalia in the chat, she said that she shop, she eat, and also she sleep to manage stress. And Nurliza Muhammad Zain cakap shopping and also cooking.
Ah, nice. Okay, that's actually a good thing. We never thought that shopping was a good thing until the pandemic. So it can possibly be therapeutic as well, and I'm sure many of us can relate, kan? Lepas kita dah orang kata we went through such a massive lockdown, lockdowns after lockdowns, segala-gala MCO dan sebagainya, to finally being able to go and just to shop, that was such a big relief, kan, sebenarnya. So I can totally relate to that as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. Thank you very much, Aisha. So just moving on, this is the stress and pressure performance curve, and this is very necessary to really understand so that we know where we are at and whether we need to do something about it. Okay, so the performance and pressure curve, kalau kita tengok, we're looking at the middle, the stretch zone ataupun the green zone. This is where the optimal performance is, right? So you have enough pressure and you're able to perform optimally. Okay, kemudian you have your comfort zone. This is what we normally say, oh, you're in in your comfort zone, and which means that it's difficult for you to to grow, because we are comfortable, and then we tend to be complacent, etc., etc. And then we also have our strain zone, which in the strain zone, this is where your stressors are higher. And also you have your burnout, which, with consistent stress, we feel that the harder we work or the longer hours we work, we become more productive and our performance is better, which is absolutely not true. And this is why we call it the zone of delusion. And then we also have the bore out zone. Jadi bore out zone ni, it means where you are in a situation where your experiences ataupun your abilities are not being utilized enough in the workplace. Jadi kita rasa macam kita tak dapat nak contribute. And what is important is if you're in the bore out zone, the effects of it is similar if you are in a burnout zone. Jadi kita jangan rasa kalau macam kau tak banyak kerja, then you feel macam tak apalah, best what, best apa jadi kau, contoh lah. But in actual fact, the effects of it sama dengan burnout ni. So if you are indeed in the bore out zone, do something about it. Job crafting ataupun share your other abilities ataupun capabilities, or maybe ask for a job transfer where you can utilize your experiences and whatever abilities that you have and knowledge further, ataupun have that discussion with HR or your bosses about it. This is very, very important, you guys. So even when we talk about stress, there's good stress, there's also bad stress, okay? So kita melihat kepada acute stress, which is brief, normal things. You have a deadline, you're stressed out, you want to achieve it, performance, facing difficulty or challenges in life, etc. But you also have episodic acute stress where it is more repetitive, and then you may have orang kata a combination of challenges, and then KPIs to achieve. And then you are also not being able to take care of your mental health well. Kemudian kita ada juga, sorry typo, it's actually chronic stress, where it involves ongoing demands, ongoing pressure, ongoing worries that seems to go, macam on and on and on, and you feel like when does it end? Macam dululah masa kita dalam pandemic COVID-19 kan, just on and on and on, and we feel like where does it end, right? The numbers of people, being orang kata afflicted with COVID-19 can increase and increase and increase, and we feel when does it even end, that kind of thing. So something needs to be done in order for us to break that orang kata vicious loop and cycle. Burnout. Okay, so when we talk about the workplace, burnout is something that is discussed about a lot, and burnout has several dimensions. So kita rasa really truly exhausted. We don't feel that we're able to identify with the job that we're currently doing or the tasks that are being given to us, and we feel we're not able to perform well. So every day is a bad day. Caring about your work or home seems like something that you don't want to do anymore. You feel exhausted all the time, and you feel numb. You feel that you don't make a difference, or anything that you do doesn't contribute, or it's not being appreciated in that sense. So when you are in that burnout phase, you are also physically orang kata unwell. Maknanya you are prone to getting sick easily, especially macam sesama batuk, demam, low grade fever, ataupun sakit-sakit badan, sakit tengkuk, sakit belakang, all these things. So when you are in a burnout phase, you need to do something about it, guys. What we've seen. So there's mental health condition. So what mental health means is how we take care of our stresses, how we manage them, how we're able to interact with family and friends, and how we contribute to society. And we all have mental health. So what are the factors that can lead to a person getting a mental health condition? Banyak faktor, and it must be multifactorial. Okay, a lot of times we feel that it's something that we inherit, tetapi sebenarnya you can't inherit a mental health condition, but you can inherit the susceptibility in getting the condition. So kecenderungan tu kita boleh inherit, but you need a combination of factors. It can't just be one factor and then you get a mental health condition. It must be multifactorial, so many factors must be present and a build-up of time, ruling out a medical condition yang lain. Okay, So predisposing factors could be when your mom, was pregnant with you, there were complications, ataupun your mom has a mental health condition, hence you become more susceptible. Precipitating factors could be a specific event or trigger, so chemical imbalances in the brain for whatever reason it might be, loss of loved ones, loss of jobs, reduction in income, challenges, marital problems, domestic violence, etc. And then perpetuating factors could be late in getting the treatment not enough, severity of the condition. In combination, you are more susceptible. Risk factors juga banyak. Poverty is a risk factor, low mental health literacy, domestic violence, tapi protective factors juga banyak. So for example, if you have a good support system, religion, spirituality is a big protective factor as well. People that use substance, alcohol, drugs as an example, are more prone. Of course, people that have severe physical conditions are more prone. Medical conditions such as thyroid may mirror anxiety and depression. Critical illnesses, for example, like cancer, you are more prone as well. Personality plays a role as well. Your threshold, as an example, katalah, me and Encik Hazwa, we have same stressors, etc. Tetapi mungkin, my threshold is smaller, hence why I get a mental health condition and he doesn't. So what is important as a takeaway from this slide is it must be multifactorial and anyone is susceptible to the condition. So how do we know, guys? How do we know that, we are indeed having or experiencing poor mental health? Dia ada banyak symptoms sebenarnya, and you would know because you know the changes in your body. You know if you have changes in the way you think, right? In your emotions, as an example. Kan dulu tak sensitif, sekarang macam sensitif. Dulu tak overthink, sekarang overthink, right? Dulu tak rasa irritable, sekarang cakap sikit je you want to snap, you want to burst, you want to become angry, as an example, right? And you start isolating yourself, you start sleeping a lot, and you start eating a lot. So all these changes is a signal that something is not right. That means the indication of poor mental health and also physical health, right? Loss of interest, in things that you love to do. Dulu suka main bola, sekarang tak suka langsung, contohnya. Feeling hopeless, feeling very fatigued, not able to concentrate, feel very emotional, banyak unexplained aches or pains, change in, eating habits ataupun sleeping habits, feeling pessimistic, and then at the end, it will lead to thoughts of ending your life ataupun giving up, sebagai contoh. So these are signs of poor mental health. And anxiety and depression is very common amongst people in the workplace, not necessarily a clinical diagnosis of a mental health condition. It could be feelings of feeling overwhelmed ataupun really anxious ataupun anxiety ataupun panic contohnya, and then going through panic attacks. Doesn't mean that if you go through a panic attack you have a mental health condition, but if you have a mental health condition you are prone to getting panic attacks. Okay, so when is anxiety a problem? When it's prolonged, when you're not able to overcome it, when you feel regularly experiencing symptoms of anxiety or going through these panic attacks, as I mentioned, and you're not able to enjoy your everyday things that you enjoyed to do previously. Kan? So signs of panic attack, it could be in that instant you feel, palpitation, susah nak bernafas, suffocating, peluh sejuk, contohnya numbness in your fingers and in your feet. You feel like throwing up, feeling like going to the toilet, but what is horrifying about the whole thing is you actually believe that you are going to die, and that is why a panic attack experience can be very horrifying. I apologize, I'm going a little bit fast. And then depression is also very, very common, and the 9 symptoms of depression is quite similar to the earlier symptoms that I gave you, but the only difference here is you must feel depressed or irritable almost every day for at least 2 weeks, and losing interest and pleasure in activities that you used to enjoy. So if you have 5 out of these 9 symptoms, please seek professional help. Okay. And so how do we take care of our mental health? So tadi, when I asked about, how do we manage stress, it's quite similar. As I mentioned at the very, beginning of the presentation, that these are some of the things that we know, but we don't necessarily invest in it, right? So having a sleep routine, taking care of sleep hygiene, ini tak sebelum nak tidur tengok laptop, tengok TV, tengok phone, macam mana nak tidur? Or, getting enough sleep. That means 6 to 8 hours by 11, because we have circadian rhythm, we need to let the body know, okay, this is the time to sleep, clocking enough hours, body can repair itself, our brain can rest, and then once the sun comes up, we can get that sunlight that we very much need, okay? Eat well and on time. Mediterranean diet is the best. Lots of colorful vegetables and also fruits. Exercising, the best is 30 minutes, 3 times a week. Brisk walking is the best. Proven via data and research. Heart rate about 120 to 150, but of course depending on age, yeah. And then invest in hobbies, guys. Take care of yourself, right? Do things that you like. Explore, okay? Self-exploration is very important. You might, surprise yourself. Becoming a volunteer, a lot of intrinsic values, obviously, no power, no money involved, just making yourself useful, helping other people, Allah will help you, and give to charity, and of course, going to spiritual classes, whatever religion you might be, because really we need to understand, what is our role in this dunya. As an example, how do we add meaning and purpose? How do we make our lives more meaningful and purposeful? Why is there struggles in this earth when God is the most merciful, as an example. And then of course spending time with family and friends, social connectedness, not face to screen, not face to Facebook, but face to face. Not only does it improve your mental well-being, but it also increases your lifespan. So these are some ways that you can take care of your mental health. So we've included some coping mechanisms here. I will share my slides, with Petrofac, and then this way you guys can, learn these coping mechanisms. And one of the most important things, even for me, I feel really is helpful, is deep breathing exercise. Kalau kita rasa anxious, kalau kita rasa stress in the workplace, kita rasa nak marah contohnya, by implementing effective, deep breathing exercise can really help to calm yourself. It's really a way to de-stress, and it helps to regulate our breathing. Sebab kadang-kadang kan kita go through hustle and bustle, kita lupa sebenarnya nak bernafas dengan betul. So deep breathing exercise really helps. So if you're stuck in traffic, tengah drive kereta, try to do and implement deep breathing exercise on a daily basis. Okay, so I just want to share this video really quickly before we go into the topic of building resilience. It's really important that I bring that whole context of stress, kemudian burnout, and also stigma, which is really important, because if not, even how much I talk about it, if you still feel ashamed, if you still feel afraid, then you're not going to reach out for that help that you very much need and require. So stigma is a very important area to touch upon, and of course to really understand what are the signs and symptoms, and then only we can talk about how do we build this resiliency. And what is resilient? Is everyone resilient? We are all resilient. Resilient is something ordinary, tetapi kadang-kadang kita tak tahu, we don't know how to necessarily build resilient. It's like a muscle kan, so we have to kind of macam kalau muscle, kita kena macam exercise, move it, so that we can strengthen these muscles. So how do we do that? We will discuss after this video. So this is actually a video about Julia Paxton. She's a teenager, and why I chose this video is because her insights are really important, because we as parents, I'm sure many of you are parents, to really understand that mental health struggles begin at a very early age. 50% of all mental health disorders begin at the age of 14 years old. And 70% of all mental health conditions begin at the age of 24 years old, and many even in the geriatric group kan, yang dah tua 60 ke atas, struggle and are very prone to a mental health condition as well. Okay, so I'm going to run to the bathroom really quickly, so please enjoy the video.
My name is Julia and I'm 19 years old. In 2017, was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. I almost lost this battle. I didn't think it was going to get better, but it did. I've had anxiety since I was a little kid. I always had this feeling that something terrible was going to happen, and that presented itself in tightness in my chest. I'd get really shaky. I would have a lot of stomach pain. Those were the physical ways that it came out. For the longest time, I didn't know that was my anxiety. I just knew that was something that happened to me. Around middle school, I started to get depressed, and it progressively got worse as I got into high school. Everything just seemed kind of gray. And a lot of worthlessness too. I don't have anything to offer. From the outside, I think I hid it pretty well. I was a straight A student. I hung out with my friends. I babysat all the time. I was involved in my church youth group. I didn't let people see that there was something going on. That was what stayed closed behind my bedroom door. Things started to feel more heavy. I started to self-harm as a way to cope. I started having suicidal ideation. I told my mom, I don't think I can keep myself safe. And I know my parents were shocked when they knew how bad it actually was. It was on a Sunday night. My mom called Children's, their hotline. I was evaluated by a social worker. And I think it was honestly the first time I was completely open about what was happening. And I told my social worker that I didn't necessarily want to die. And I knew that I needed a break from what was happening, from all the things I was feeling. And death seemed like the only option. And I just remember crying to her and being like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I'm stuck. Here I was completely broken. I could barely see the point in staying alive. I felt so ashamed of myself. And these people, they just treated me like a person. I felt validated and I had some hope. And I knew that okay, when I ask for help, help is given and it works. And I knew that this break I was looking for could be found in a hospital room instead of dying. Today, I am in remission from my depression for the first time in who knows how long. I'm getting to know parts of me that aren't just anxious and depressed Julia. I'm clean from self-harm. I'm majoring in social work, and I really want to work in behavioral health with children, specifically in a crisis or inpatient setting. I've started to become really passionate about advocating once I made it to the other side, because I almost didn't make it. You're not at fault for where you are right now. It's okay to be afraid, but I don't want you to give up. Because the thing about depression is it lies. You gotta fight to be here, because it does get better. And all of these lies will eventually go away. You just have to hold on, because it doesn't get to win. It doesn't get to take you. Because you're stronger than that, and you're worth more than that. And it's possible.
All right, so really quickly, this will be on resilience, and this is the part where we really need to learn and enhance, and this is what we call, mental health promotion, right? So it's not just about having preventative measures on how do we prevent ourselves from getting a mental health disorder. Okay, so we know all that. We know we need to have work-life integration. We know we need to sleep well, eat well, exercise and things like that. But now that we've done all that, we still face stressors in the workplace. Life still happens. For some people, tragedy happens. So how do we bounce back when we have all these adversities happening in life, right? So this is where we need to talk about resilience, right? Because resilience is what gives people the strength to cope with whatever things that might happen, right? Any challenges, any adversity, any hardships in life. So it's like a reservoir of strength. And people that are more resilient are able to utilize all this knowledge and skills and strength so that we can cope and we can bounce back better, right? And we can learn from all these lessons and experiences, because every experience that we go through builds us as a person, right? We're able to grow as a person. So what are the characteristics of resilience? Having a positive view of yourself, viewing yourself as a fighter, making realistic plans and sticking to them, having high emotional intelligence. So it could mean a lot of things. Emotional intelligence could encompass resilience, empathy, mindful listening, self-awareness, which is so important. Having purpose and meaning, passion. So these are all part of emotional intelligence. And how do we manage all these emotions more effectively, right? And having that, internal locus of control and being a good communicator. So these are all characteristics of resilience. So it's not something that either you have or you don't, because everyone has it. Everyone is resilient, but we need to learn on how to build these things, right? So we can learn, we can practice, we can improve it. And also another myth about resiliency is, people that are resilient don't have problems, stress, or difficult emotions. Obviously, we're all human beings, so this is absolutely not true. With resiliency, it will help us to overcome, these difficult, challenging emotions, whatever problems that we go through, a bit better. And resilient people are tough and self-reliant, that they don't need other people. Obviously, that's not true. Nobody can live alone, and we shouldn't. We should all have at least one person to help us go through this life. Yeah. Being able to reach out to others for support is a key component. It's brave. Not everyone, feels encouraged, or not everyone finds it easy to reach out. And because, reaching out, having the ability to reach out is a strength. It indicates that the person is actually strong when the society tells you that you're weak. So these are, some of the myths of resiliency. And resilience is not toxic positivity, guys. Yeah. Signs of toxic positivity, we all know, things like, man up, think positive. If the person can think positive, the person would have thought positive. But because of the symptoms, because of the situation, they're not able to. And hence why it's very important, being us as, a family member or a loved one to the person, or a friend or a colleague or a boss, as an example, to be able to hold that space and validate what the person is going through. Okay, so how do we build this resilience, guys? So there are 5 components here: social engagement, meaning, attention, growth, mindset, and also self-care. And again, this is not rocket science, but again, it's sometimes not something that we necessarily invest in, right? So social engagement, find ways to connect to your colleagues, practice random act of kindness, really all these acts of kindness, selflessness will induce good hormones, and eventually you will feel better about yourself and able to overcome these challenging emotions, because you'll feel happy, you'll feel happier, right? And be an active listener, look in people's eyes, say thank you, and be able to connect at that level. And so, as I mentioned earlier, social connectedness itself, engagement, will help you to maintain a good mental well-being. And of course, the other thing is increases lifespan, because we're all social creatures, right? We need to have that orang kata social support system and that social engagement. So this is one of the ways to build resilience. And of course, as mentioned, one of the components of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness and also self-care. So you want to move your body, right? Eat well, eat on time, like I said, eat nutritious food, balanced diet, put good things in your body, right? We are what we eat, right? Practice self-compassion. So self-compassion, not just towards others, but especially towards yourself. Have that boundary, a clear, healthy boundary for yourself. And then cultivate opportunities for personal growth. So it could be, if we remember again, during the MCO, we were all trying different hobbies, exploring different things. A lot of women and also men tried, cooking all these different menus, etc., etc., and then making time for reflection, which is so important. It could be through anything really, journaling, could be prayer, it could be meditation, spending time in nature. And I know that for most of us, if not all, we are all more appreciative today. We don't take things for granted. Hopefully we don't take things for granted anymore after what we've gone through with this whole pandemic. And of course, just play, have fun, give yourself a pat on the back, reward yourself. These are all attention and focus. So we want to train our mental or brain or mind through, it could be visualization, it could be deep breathing, as I mentioned earlier, bringing ourselves to the present. Because you see, the harm of over-worrying, overthinking, having negative thoughts, it will spiral, and then you will find yourself in a place where you're unfamiliar, and it becomes very difficult, because one unhelpful thought will then hook on to another negative thought. It will then hook on to another thought, and before you know it, you have all these overwhelming thoughts and overthinking, and then you feel anxious, then you feel sad, then all these difficult emotions come about. So you want to practice mindfulness techniques, these meditation, visualization, because you want to bring yourself to the present, enjoy the present, live in the moment, okay? And focus on one thing at a time. This is also a way to strategize in not only building resilience, but to overcome and manage whatever stressors that we have, right? And unplug, guys. I feel this is so important, because if not, a lot of attention and focus, for example, on our phone, especially when we're working, or on social media, it actually makes a person more anxious. It makes a person feel that there's a lot of anxiety, and then you feel overwhelmed, as an example. Nobody's life is perfect, despite what you see on social media. And then comparisons start to happen, feeling dissatisfied with where you're at, with work that you have, with the family you have, with the circle of friends that you have. So benda tu akan spiral. So unplug, and then listen to, well, not unplug every day, okay? Listen to music is also really, really good. Listening to soothing sounds, macam water, rain, sea, ocean waves, bird. So benda-benda ni sangat-sangat membantu sebenarnya. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, strengthening meaning and purpose. Macam mana kita nak menambahkan makna dalam kehidupan? How do we do that? Because one of the keys to happiness and a way to achieve this, sebenarnya ada dua. We need to add meaning and purpose in life, and kurangkan attachment to dunia, kurangkan the needs and the wants. And so when we talk about strengthening meaning and purpose, examine that again. Develop realistic goals. We work towards it. Doesn't have to be big. Even if we are not able to achieve it today, we can try again tomorrow, okay? So you don't have to be rigid about it, but develop that so that you have a meaning and purpose, something for you to achieve and attain. Finding ways to help others. Again, make yourself useful. That in itself will make yourself feel better. Embrace change, guys, because change will always happen, right? Reflect, self-reflection again. That's also how you can add meaning and purpose. See, what are the things that are not going well, move it. Things that are going well, improve and enhance or strengthen it. And strive to accept what you cannot change. Make conscious choices to take action where you can influence a process, outcome, or relationship. I think this is really important, to really understand, what are the things that are within your control, what are the things that are beyond your control, right? And if we understand this, then it will make our lives easier. It will make us in that sense. So I think being, people in the workplace, you guys know this well. So ada fixed mindset or kita ada growth mindset. So obviously we want to have a growth mindset, kan? And it's not just about the talent, but it must be about working hard, working smart, kan? And prioritize learning. We are all, students for life. And I feel that every single day that we're in this earth, we should continue to progress, and it's through knowledge, it's through reading, learning from the experiences of others, talking to people, especially the older people, especially people that have retired, they have so much experience in life, they have so much experience in the workplaces. Learn about the things that we shouldn't repeat, the mistakes, the lessons, and learn from the things that are successful, right? So these conversations are so necessary and so important. Kadang-kadang kita lupa because of the older generation, right? This is why we have the opportunities and the luxuries that we have today. This is why we have progressed so much. Sometimes we forget about this and we don't credit, people that should be credited in that process. View challenges, setbacks as opportunities to grow and learn. I think we all know this. Acknowledge and embrace your imperfections. We're all nobody's perfect. We are different in our own ways. We embrace the differences. We understand the diversity. We accept, one another. We agree to disagree. So these are all, attributes of growth mindset. And applaud your effort, right? It's not just necessarily, the result, but the effort that is being put in. Because at the end of the day, it might not necessarily go your way or whatever ways, but at the end of the day, it's the effort that we need to, orang kata to not only applaud but to reward, yeah. And avoid comparing yourself to others. I think this is something we tell our children, but we don't necessarily practice it onto ourselves, right? So we all have our own strengths. We all learn differently as well. Okay, so I've also included actions that can be taken in the workplaces. It's a lot, so I'll just leave it here. When you guys have time, you can look at it. I just want to end with this really quickly. A lot of workplaces today are very fast-paced environment. So how do we adapt? Kadang-kadang kita rasa, maybe we don't fit in this fast-paced environment. And obviously, environment, the typo, sorry. And not everyone is fit for a fast-paced environment. So we need to know what kind of person we are as well. So sebenarnya kalau kita tahu bahawa I'm not for a fast-paced environment ataupun I'm not suitable for a fast-paced environment, then there's always time to change it, to do something about it, but of course when you work in a fast-paced environment in a lot of companies, you're able to achieve a lot of things, but what is important is building that resilience, having that support, being able to lean on one another, being able to have that open conversation with your bosses, having that healthy boundary. So banyak benda kena berlaku. So how do we adapt? Learn your expectations, right? So you need to know what is expected from you. You need to know what are your day-to-day responsibilities. You need to prepare yourself. So don't prepare it when you are already in the workplace, but prepare ahead of time, right? And then find a way to stay organized. There's a lot of ways. Every person is different, obviously. So, explore and see what works for you. And prioritization is so important. So if you know how to prioritize, if you know how to manage your time, you will be able to stay organized better. And of course, embrace the unknown. Again, if there are changes, embrace that and think of it as an opportunity to grow. And of course, being in the workplace, we should be able to lean on one another. So learn how to lean on your colleagues and also be that person where they can lean on too. Because we never know, when we need help from others, and we never know when, others might need help from us. So try to bond, have a close-knit, group, relationships, build that, and then understanding each other's working styles, because everybody has their own way of working, and if we understand it better, then we'll be able to work orang kata harmoniously and tapping on each other's strength, and then amplifying that, magnifying that, but also work on limitations as well, as orang kata as a team, collectively. And then use motivation strategies, as I mentioned earlier, a reward system, take care of yourself, then of course the enough sleep, rest, eating well, etc. And then see it as an adventure. I think this is also looking it from a positive mindset, from a different lens as well, where when a hectic work environment, as I mentioned earlier, when you're in a fast-paced environment, it can mean that the company is heading towards growth, because typically when a company is fast paced is also because they're growing so fast at the same time. And then treat it as an adventure. It may be, an opportunity where, there's job increment or job opportunities or job promotion or bonuses. So it could but at the same time give yourself breaks, take care of yourself, self-care, kita dah cakap banyak dah about that. And then communication skills, again, very very important. So if you're going through difficulties, if you need help from your colleagues, from your bosses, so have that communication, open communication, and relay your messages correctly and to the relevant person, and also set goals for yourself. So these are some of the ways that we can adapt in a fast-paced environment. So I think it's 11:10. I will end it here. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you so much for listening. I'll pass it back to Encik Hazwa. Thank you, Encik Hazwa.
Alright, thank you, Puan Anita. Do we have any question from the participants? Is there anyone would like to ask a question to Miasa?
Yep. Any questions, everyone?
You either can write down the question in the chat room, or straight away ask question dekat sini lah.
Boleh, silakan.
Tak ada orang tanya, senyap semua. Tak ada orang tanya, senyap semua.
Semua faham
There's someone asked in the chat room from Nurzana Biswan. Is sleeping on the issue helps or it is not encouraged?
Is what again, Aisha?
Is sleeping on the issue helps or it is not encouraged?
It really depends. What is the issue about? Is it a small issue? Is it a big issue? And what is your mental health state during the time? What are your stressors during the time? Because obviously when we want to make decisions on something, we need to be able to do it in a positive manner, kan? Sebab we don't want to rush into making decisions. We don't want to also make decisions that we might regret later on. So kadang-kadang kalau kita dalam keadaan yang mungkin kurang stabil disebabkan oleh kurang tidur, kurang segala-galanya, ataupun tengah stres, ataupun banyak KPIs yang we need to hit at the moment, or the projects that we need to finish up. So that is maybe not advisable to make a decision at that point. So sleeping on it could be a good thing, definitely.
Move on to the next question from Encik Uzaifa Uyuk. Is there any possibility that stress or burnout leads to memory loss?
Okay, so burnout and stress could lead to a mental health condition if many of the factors are present, and if you do not take care of your mental health, and you must rule out a medical condition. So dia banyak faktor. It isn't like stress je memory loss, dia bukan macam tu. But of course when it leads to a mental health condition, some symptoms of a mental health condition could lead to it. So for example, macam kalau kita tahu dementia, kan, typically people think, oh, dementia ni berlaku kepada orang tua-tua. Sebenarnya orang muda pun boleh dapat dementia, and one of the risk factors of dementia is katalah untreated depression, katalah tak menjaga orang kata penjagaan kesihatan mental ataupun fizikal yang baik. So dementia is part of memory loss juga, kan. And of course other symptoms of a mental health condition bukanlah memory loss, tapi we can be ataupun tend to be forgetful mungkin. Mungkin juga kita selektif dalam benda-benda yang kita nak ingat. That could also be it. And side effects of medication can also make someone become forgetful. So dia banyak. There's not a orang kata a quick ataupun short answer for it. But hopefully that helps.
Alright, thank you Puan Anita. There's another three questions. Okay, from Ahmad Razif, Muhammad Razul, can you share based on what you experience in Malaysia setting, some worst thing that has happened if you do not think about the mental health as a lesson learned.
Okay. Of course, the extreme end of it, people die from it. Okay, die macam mana? Because, as I mentioned earlier, when we talk about a mental health condition, it revolves around the conversation of suicide. Kan? So when a person struggles alone in silence, late in getting the treatment, obviously your prognosis isn't going to be good. So you face or you go through extreme isolation, intense symptoms, and you could battle suicidal thoughts and ideation. And if you don't get the help, you don't get the treatment, you're not supported, you will feel like you want to give up. And suicidal thoughts and ideation ni kan, it is a symptom of the condition. It's like an itch that you need to scratch, tau. Dia macam tu. It's intrusive. Dia macam mana kalau kita tak sihat, kita demam, kita sakit kepala, kita sakit tekak, kita batuk, kita sesama. These symptoms you can't control kan. So similarly, when you have, for example, specifically depression, that these symptoms are intrusive. So if you don't do anything about it, if you don't get the support, and if nobody helps, then unfortunately, some people choose the unimaginable act of suicide or ending their lives, not because they want to die, but because they want the pain to end. So that is the extreme thing that can happen if you don't take care of it. And of course, the other thing is it can also lead to having severe mental health conditions and then severe physical conditions, comorbidity of both. And then of course, your whole immune system, obviously lah, kalau kita ada any kind of NCDs kan, immune system becomes very low, and then the risk of katalah dalam contoh pandemik ni mendapat COVID-19 again, there is a chance that you may die. So death would be that extreme end.
Okay. Alright. Next question is from Muhammad Faizal. Okay. Puan Anita, do you have any comment regarding employer approach on tackling mental health but without actually upgrading their medical insurance package to include coverage on mental health symptoms and treatment?
Betul. So sebenarnya when we talk about health insurance kan dekat Malaysia, it's kind of tricky. But what I've seen is some MNCs, what they do is they just orang kata diorang cover lah untuk diorang punya employees, usually in private settings lah. Sebabnya dekat Malaysia, when we talk about medical insurance, if you disclose that you have a mental health condition, then you are not eligible for that insurance policy, which is a 100% discrimination, obviously. And I think that one of the important things being employers, that we really need to implement preventive measures in the workplace and also mental health promotion via, for example, employee assistance programs. So you guys can have like helplines ataupun counseling, visiting psychiatrists, peer support groups, have discussions like this often, have an environment where the workplace is supportive of a person with a mental health condition. So it could be that when you normalize such discussions, that your employee, bila dia dapat MC from their psychiatrist, they don't have to feel ashamed. They don't have to feel afraid. They can just give it, to the workplace, and we accept it like a normal condition. The problem and the challenge right now is there's so many barriers even to that, without even talking about insurance. Sebab orang yang ada penyakit mental di tempat kerja takut dan malu. So you don't want to disclose your condition. So it makes it harder for you to have orang kata to go through that recovery process more effectively. Sebab a mental health condition is a lifelong condition. So if you feel stress in the workplace, ataupun you're going through a panic attack in the workplace, or you're battling suicidal thoughts in the workplace, where do you go? What do you do? Especially if you're not able to openly talk about it. So just by being open about it in the workplace, by just encouraging employees to share if they're going through a mental health struggle, can be enormous in terms of help, in terms of validation, in terms of reducing that stress, that anxiety, whatever that the person is going through. So tak semestinya perlu bercakap pasal insurance, tapi again, if a person has a clinical diagnosis, and of course the discussion of insurance is very important, but again, the employers can support in other ways. For now, sebab insurance companies don't cover it. The only thing that they cover right now is mental health condition, tapi untuk newly diagnosed, maknanya you've already bought the insurance and then suddenly within that process you get a mental health condition, then it's covered, tapi not if you already have an existing mental health condition. Yep.
Alright, thank you, Puan Anita. Next question is from Nur Atika. Is sharing our problem in social media will reduce depression or anxiety?
Will sharing it reduce it? Well, I think it really depends. Are you doing it because you don't have a good support system, that you feel invalidated, or people around you are being dismissive, maknanya your family members or friends, and then you find the need to put it on social media as a way to reach out for help, as a way of crying out for help, then I think it will help. Tapi kalau the intention is not because of that, then how would it help kan? So apa yang saya lihat, especially sepanjang pandemic, a lot of people that have been sharing on social media biasanya is either for awareness, and also because again people surrounding them are not helpful and they're trying to, it's a cry for help. So this is what it is. So talking about it, reaching out for the help obviously can reduce not necessarily the symptoms, tetapi what you're feeling at the moment. Maybe if you feel sad, but when you're reaching out on social media, someone, ada orang sambut, you feel validated, so it can reduce those difficult feelings that you're going through, experiencing.
Alright, thank you, Puan Anita. Next question is from Cik Amalia. Cik Amalia is actually asking about coping mechanism. She asks whether there is a possibility that we are not feeling happy, but we don't even know why we're happy. Why we are unhappy about it. So how are we going to cope to that?
Betul. I think a lot of people go through this as well. What you can do is to have a gauge is you can do a mental health screening, which is important. So what you can do is there is what we call the DAS test, depression, anxiety, stress scale test. You can just Google it. It's all over the internet. It's 21 questions. It will give you a gauge on your mental health state. It's not a clinical assessment, but it's a good indicator. So from the results, it will show you your anxiety levels, your stress levels, and your depression levels. If your results are severe or extremely severe, then please walk into orang kata, to see your GP, a private clinic or a health clinic. They can give you a referral letter, and with the referral letter you can seek professional help at a government hospital or a private hospital to see a clinical psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist, because you need to do something about it.
Alright, I think that answers question for the next question from Jian Heng Ho. Is there any mental health or stress burnout questionnaire that one can use to gauge and assess themselves? So that answers that already. And the next question is from Nur Zulaika. She asked whether taking medication for anxiety and is taking medication for anxiety and stress are encouraged, as they could really hook on to the meds.
Okay, this really depends though on, is it a anxiety disorder? That means, is it a clinical diagnosis, or is it the normal emotions of anxiety? Because there's a difference, right? I'm sure in this context you're talking about a clinical diagnosis of an anxiety disorder. Medication alone obviously isn't enough. When you're going through that recovery process, it must be a holistic approach to that recovery process. I'm sorry for the noise. So not just taking medication, but therapy could be an option, peer support, counseling, and again, that total lifestyle change, right? So reduction of your stressors, work-life integration, eating well, sleeping well, those kind of things. So by doing that, by having a holistic approach to your recovery process, that will be an effective way to heal from anxiety, not just medication alone. But medication helps. Not everyone needs medication, but for people that need it, you can have that discussion with your doctors or your clinical psychiatrist.
All right, thank you, Puan Anita. I think that's all for that is the only questions that we have. Okay, maybe one more question from Muhammad Iqmal. Some countries have started to adopt or test 4 days work week arrangement. Okay, from your opinion, is it a good and efficient initiative to reduce or manage workplace stress and boost productivity?
I personally don't agree. But I leave it open. And the reason for this is because, like I said, resiliency is something ordinary. We all have it. And I feel that we are not investing in all the components, because if you work 5 days, right, you have these stressors. Invest on all the components that I shared with you earlier. If you do that, then there's no problems in working 5 days a week or 6 days a week, especially people that work long hours, shift, dan sebagainya. Because I find that a lot of people, what happens is we don't prioritize. We don't know how to manage our time. We don't build resilience. We don't eat well. We don't sleep enough. We don't rest enough. We don't credit our mental health account. We don't invest in hobbies. We don't do things that we like. We don't spend time with family and friends or quality time. We spend, lepas tu kita tengok social media. Social media, to me, that is detrimental. So that is the part where I said unplug, detox, because a lot of people are spending so much time on social media when it could be replaced with physical activities that is good and beneficial for your physical and mental well-being. Spending time with family and friends. You have time to play games until 3-4 a.m. in the morning, which is so detrimental again. So to me, no. For me, you need to invest in all these components, macam that stress bucket yang kita nampak tadi, learning effective coping mechanisms, building resilience. Then anyone can work, the 5-6 days, whatever it might be.
Alright, thank you, Puan Anita. I think that's all. That's all the questions that we have. I would like to take some. We are going to share a feedback form. It would be good if every one of us can fill up the form, because your feedback means a lot to us as an organization, and we really would welcome your thoughts and suggestions and recommendation and any feedback that you give us. So I will share it in the chat. Let's get it.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Aisha.
All right, thank you, Puan Anita.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miasa team. Next is Miasa to share the presentation pack, so I can share to all our colleagues. And thank you to all participants today. Hopefully, we can get some knowledge regarding our mental health status and how to coping with our mental health. So without further anything, I would like to end this session, and we can meet in another session for the another health talk. So with that, thank you very much, and take care, and thank you.
Welcome so much. Thank you very much, everyone. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, everyone. Terima kasih semua. Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih.
Bye.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, everyone.
Terima kasih. Thank you, everyone.